This is the Great Basin Fire Potential Outlook from November through February, the next 4 months. We'll very quickly take a look at recent weather conditions, drought conditions, the state of current fuels, any changes in El Nino or La Nina, and looking at the weather portion, the expected weather from November through February, and then putting it all together, the actual fire potential outlook for the next 4 months. So we start with recent weather trends. On the left, precipitation percent of average for the month of October. You can see how much wetter than normal we ended up across all of Idaho, western Wyoming, and even northern Nevada. There were some issues with fires earlier in the month. A lot of this precipitation along the Sierra front came through later in the month after some initial fire activity. Of course, much drier across southern Nevada, especially across a good portion of Utah and the Arizona Strip. On the right-hand side, temperatures a little to moderately above normal in just about all areas. Looking at current drought conditions on the left, overall we do have this orange shade severe drought across western portions of Nevada, and also a little sliver here in the Wasatch. And the shade of brown is a moderate drought, which extends a bit further on the periphery of both of those areas. Elsewhere, no drought conditions. And on the right-hand side, you can see that we expect drought conditions to continue in those aforementioned areas of western Nevada and also portions of the Wasatch, a smaller area, otherwise pretty normal. And looking at our current fuels, we've closed out the season. Things are pretty moist. These are 100-hour fuels. You can see we're fairly dormant in those green areas, values of 16 or higher. We usually don't get too concerned about 100-hour fuels until they start approaching the single digits, 6, 7, 8s. And you can see that we really don't even have that. We have these yellow areas through here, which are 100-hour fuels ranging from 11 to 15%, so no significant issues pending at the current time. We'll also look now at any El Nino or La Nina activity which could play a role in our climate over the next few months. Looking at the equatorial Pacific, this is the South American coast. This is Mexico through here. You can see this little thin strip of blue developing over the last couple of weeks. It's a slightly cooler than normal water temperature, somewhere about a ½ degree to a degree cooler than normal Celsius-wise, which is the lower end threshold for La Nina. However, there is quite a bit of warmer water pooling just north of that, so we're not seeing any real significant deepening of what would be considered a strong or significant La Nina at the present time. So looking at a conglomeration of our long-term climatic models, you can see that the zero line through here, and of course below is the cooler than normal waters. Most of the climate models by the midwinter months push our conditions to either neutral or more of a weak La Nina signal here in this first shade of blue before reversing that trend as we go into springtime. So we wouldn't really expect a widespread significant impact of La Nina unless we saw some of these models, a lot of them actually tickling to the second or third shade of blue, which is not happening. So we don't really have a strong input weather-wise from the El Nino or La Nina signal. But we do have expected weather conditions from other factors, and we'll start with November on the left-hand side with temperatures. You can see that warmer than normal conditions expected. Also below that, drier than normal across the Great Basin. And very little change in December. It looks like both November and December are very warm and drier than normal months. It's not until January, February where we still stay a little drier than normal through that period and warmer. Actually, the warmth lingers, but we start seeing a wetter trend, especially in our northern areas, as we go into February. Of course, these are long-term outlooks and are subject to change. So putting these pieces together, there are a few pieces that we normally have this time of year. We obviously have no significant large fire potential for the November through February period. It's normally our off-season. We don't have extreme drought in our southern areas, which could preclude that. So all in all, looking at just normal conditions. Taking a look at the national outlook on the left-hand side, you can see for November up here, a bit of concern across Southern California. It is their Santa Ana season, but a larger concern developing across the southeast, also a strip of Texas and Oklahoma as well. So it's in the southeastern tier of states. So we see some conditions or potential continuing November and even into December. So any type of team deployments that we have nationally, those will be those areas, and that'll start winding down as we go into January and February, but still a slowly tapering off effect across Southern California due to their continuation of extreme drought. All they need is 1 or 2 days of offshore winds to put their fuels into a critical type status. So summing things up, we do have drought conditions continuing across parts of western Nevada and a smaller portion of the Wasatch in Utah. Our El Nino is long since over. We're more neutral now and trending towards a weak La Nina with no real clear climatic signal. But overall, we are expecting warmer temperatures and a quite dry period from November through December, then trending more towards normal, but definitely not looking at a long-term cooler or wetter than normal signal for sure. So for us, that means a normal or basically a minimal fire potential for all areas into these winter months of November through February. This concludes our seasonal outlook. Have a great day.